Lesson 10, Indigenous Cultures, The Survival of the Maya and Mesoamerica, Part 2. Changing Ways of Work. Two farmers are heading to work in a highland Maya village, but they are heading in different directions. One is walking to his field on the slopes above town, where he will work to provide food for his family as his ancestors have done for hundreds of years. The other is catching a bus for the lowlands, where he works for cash on a modern plantation. While farming has always been central to the Maya way of life, changing circumstances and new agricultural methods have altered the ways farmers work. Traditional farming. Most Maya are subsistence farmers, growing corn, beans, squash, and other vegetables on small plots called milpas. Each year, these farmers hope to gather enough food at harvest time to feed their families for the next year. The majority of what they harvest will be corn, the Maya's most important crop. In fact, corn is considered sacred to the Maya, who call it the giver of life. Traditionally, Maya farmers cleared their land using the slash and burn method. They cut down the forest and burned the cut trees and shrubs after they dried out. Then, using simple wooden tools, the farmers dug the ash into the ground to fertilize the soil. Some also mixed in manure and other natural fertilizers to help their crops grow. Some Maya still follow traditional farming methods, but in many parts of the highlands, much of the land has already been cleared. As a result, slash and burn agriculture is no longer as common as it once was among Maya farmers. Many farmers have adapted by using chemical fertilizers to enrich the soil. Some Maya farmers have developed new methods for growing crops in the shades of their own orchards. So this map over here shows land use in Guatemala. The map shows a mix of old and new farming. Subsistence farming takes place mainly in the highlands, where most Maya live. Commercial farming takes place at lower elevations. Many Maya work on lowland plantations as migrant workers. So that tells us what's in the orangey color is the subsistence farming. Those are in the highlands, so it's more hilly and mountainous over there. And the green shows commercial farming, so that's the plantations in the lowlands. It also shows the crops they have. So we have corn, coffee, bananas, sugar cane, and cotton. We see a lot more corn and a lot of coffee being grown in this area. Maya farmers have adapted in other ways. Many spend part of the year working for wages on commercial farms, which now account for most of the land in Guatemala. This concentration of land on large farms dates back to when the Spanish colonized and took over the best land for agriculture. Today, about 2% of the population still owns 70% of the land. Most large landowners cultivate sugarcane, coffee, cotton, and other crops for export. So that's pretty much saying, if there was 100 people, 2 of those people own 70% of the land, leaving 98 people to be in charge of the other 30%. Large plantations depend on Maya farmers who travel to the lowlands to work. These migrant workers spend weeks or even months away from their families. When they return, they usually have some money saved. But plantation wages are low, and many farm families still struggle to make a living. Making the most of Market Day. It is Market Day in Chichicastenango, Guatemala. At 7 a.m., a chilly mist still hangs over the town, but already the plaza is jammed with people. Most are Maya from the surrounding countryside, who have come to buy and sell food, tools, and other goods. There are also many tourists from around the world who have come to experience one of the most famous markets in the Maya region. Here we have a picture, some people at the market. Looks like they're trying to get some veggies. Not sure what kind of veggie, but a bunch of them. Maya markets are colorful affairs. While many tourists come to Guatemala to see Maya ruins, they also visit highland markets. Here they find traditional crafts, some of which are made especially for tourists. So we can see people are buying vegetables, we've got some flowers. Over way here in the background, we have some clothing items. So market day is a huge ordeal. Market day is an important tradition in the Mayan highlands. Markets still offer a strong flavor of Maya culture, and they also reflect many changes taking place in the Maya world. Maya markets are held 1 to 2 days a week, with Sunday often the most popular choice for market day. A Maya market typically spreads out from the central plaza into the surrounding streets. Stalls selling the same type of goods are usually grouped together. Fruits and vegetables are found in one area, household goods in another, and so on. Markets also have food stalls to feed hungry shoppers. Merchants in some stalls offer such services as shoe repair, portrait photography, and money lending. Highland markets have changed as tourists have come to the highlands to see historic Maya sites. In Chichicastenango, a large part of the market is devoted to tourist items. Some popular items are traditional Maya products, like weaving and wood carvings. Other items, such as purses and baseball caps, are designed just for tourists. The way merchants conduct trade in Maya markets has also changed as a result of tourism. Many years ago, barter was a common way to obtain goods in these markets. For example, a Maya might exchange a basket of vegetables for a certain amount of salt or sugar. With so many outsiders visiting the markets, merchants today trade mostly with money. Other recent changes in the Maya marketplace also reflect modern influences. For instance, at one time merchants did most marketing trading in Mayan languages. Now that more people from outside the local community shop at the markets, Spanish has become the common tongue. In addition, certain goods in highland markets, such as radios and plastic toys, reveal adaptations to modern life. Keeping Maya traditions alive. On a hillside above Chichicastenango sits the Maya shrine of Pascualabaj. The Quiche Maya come to this shrine to worship their ancient gods, kneeling before a small carved altar and burning candles and incense. They ask the gods to bring a bountiful harvest and to cure the sick. 500 years after the Spanish conquest, the Maya still keep their ancient traditions alive. This here is a video by Nelson Clark on YouTube showing Turcaj Hill outside Chichicastenango, which is where the Maya secretly practiced their religion after their temple was destroyed. So this here is the Maya shrine of Pascualabaj.
Yeah, when they have a private celebration, they go for it. Because here not the local people came, they come the other time. Because this place feels like a doctor. For example, you have a doctor, you sleep, you tell the other people, the people is here.
Why
Now that area probably looked a little bit different than what you might have been expecting it to look. It kind of looked like that there was more that used to be there than there is now. And that's partly because the Spanish conquistadores, the conquistadors, came and they built their stuff on top of it. So it's a little bit different now than it was before. Let's talk about the religion and celebrations. The ancient Maya worshipped many gods. These gods represented elements of the natural world, such as the sun, rain, and lightning. For the ancient Maya, everything in the world, even rocks and water, had a spirit. When the Spanish arrived in the 1500s, they sought to convert the Maya to Christianity. Spain was a Catholic country, and over time, most Maya also became Catholics. But they also kept their ancient beliefs. In fact, they blended their traditional beliefs with Catholicism to form a new kind of religion. The Maya saw little conflict between their old and new beliefs. They believed that they could worship Catholic saints and still remain faithful to their own gods. Maya representations of Catholic saints even acquired features of the Maya gods. Today, the religious festivals that are celebrated throughout the Mayan highlands express this blended religion. Easter week and Christmas are important holidays, celebrated by attending Catholic Mass and carrying images of the saints through the streets. The Maya also celebrate these occasions in Maya fashion. They listen to traditional music played on Maya instruments and watch traditional dances performed by masked dancers in Maya costumes. They also continue to pray to Maya gods in rituals that date back thousands of years. At festivals, the Maya dress in their finest traditional clothes. Women wear beautiful woven blouses, or huipis, and colorful skirts, belts, and headdresses. Even men, who usually wear modern clothing, may dress in Maya style for festivals. The designs in traditional clothing reflect the history and culture of the Maya people, providing a living connection to the Maya past. The Maya have also preserved their traditional medicine. They may go to modern doctors for more serious medical problems, but many still prefer to visit traditional healers. Maya healers have great knowledge of their natural environment, and they use medicinal plants to help cure diseases. They know how to repair broken bones and heal snake bites. But Maya healers don't treat only physical illnesses. The Maya believe that illness has both physical and spiritual causes, so healers also use rituals to treat the soul and mend the spirit. The most skilled Maya healers are also the wise men of their community. They may also become daykeepers, men who preserve knowledge of the ancient Maya calendar, which was central to Maya religion. Daykeepers perform rituals on key dates to maintain harmony among people, the gods, and the natural world. Because traditional Maya medicine has a spiritual component, Maya shamans are often healers in their communities. They use their knowledge of the natural world to cure diseases, mend broken bones, and remedy other minor injuries, and also use rituals to heal the soul as well as the body. Maya shamans often play an important role within traditional Maya religious practices as daykeepers, preserving knowledge of the Maya calendar. In this lesson, we read about Maya culture in the highlands of Guatemala in southern Mexico. You learned that the Maya have kept alive many of their ancient customs and beliefs while simultaneously adapting to the modern world. Other indigenous peoples have also tried to preserve their cultures while adapting to modern life. The Navajo people of the American Southwest are one such group. The Navajos still practice their traditional crafts and observe their ancient religious customs. At the same time, they drive cars, attend colleges across the United States, and leave home to find work. Indigenous people live all around the globe. In the next section, you'll find out more about how they preserve their culture and yet adapt to the modern world. Global connections. This map shows some indigenous groups around the world. There are at least 250 million indigenous peoples spread across 70 countries. Note that some groups live in areas that span national borders. Why might this be? What do indigenous peoples gain by adapting to modern life? The graphs in this section show that indigenous people are generally poorer than other people in their countries. These people may benefit from adopting the language and customs of the majority population in order to give them access to better jobs, healthcare, and schools. So this graph here is showcasing that poverty among the indigenous and non-indigenous populations in Latin America. They showcase Bolivia in 2012, Guatemala in 2012, and Mexico in 2010. We can see that our highest numbers are in the yellow area, showcasing indigenous population in poverty. So we know by looking at this map here, this bit, let's look at Bolivia. This blue says 59%, so 59% of the population 2012 in Bolivia was non-indigenous, and 19% of that was in poverty. 41% of the population is indigenous, and 45% of that 41% was in poverty. So almost half the people that were indigenous in Bolivia were in poverty. In Guatemala, it's saying that about 60% of the population was not indigenous. So if we use this out of 100 people, let's say 60 people were not indigenous. 57% of that 60 people were in poverty. 40% of the population, so 40 people out of 100, were indigenous, and 80% of them were in poverty. That's more than half the people. That's almost 100%, almost all of the people who were indigenous in Guatemala were in poverty. And that map is reflected again in Mexico in 2010. While here we have 85% not indigenous, and only 15% that is indigenous, and 80% of that 15 was in poverty. What is most often lost when indigenous peoples adapt to modern life? Indigenous peoples often lose their language, history, and customs when they join the dominant culture. Over time, children stop being taught about the things that make their culture special, and as a result, they may lose some of their sense of identity as adults. When certain cultures are lost, the world as a whole loses some of its cultural diversity. Notice the number of languages listed in this table. As indigenous people integrate into the dominant culture, many of those languages will disappear. So it's saying that in Papua New Guinea, there are 839 different languages. But as more culture is being lost, that 839 is going to decrease. So there's going to be less and fewer languages spoken in Papua New Guinea. In the United States, we see we have 422 different languages spoken. So not just English or Spanish or French or whatever. All the native languages are also included in this. But as more time goes on, the indigenous peoples start losing their bit of culture. So their languages start dying out. The fewer people who know the language, the fewer people who will teach the language. And then fewer who will learn it. And then we have an endless cycle. And eventually there's going to be only one person who remembers the language. And when they pass away, that language becomes extinct. It's like when animals all die out and we no longer have the dodo bird. They're extinct. those languages become extinct. Can indigenous peoples preserve their traditional culture while adapting to modern life? Well, many are trying to do just that. The Maori of New Zealand, for example, turned to modern courts of law to win back their traditional lands and fishing areas. The Inuit of Canada now use rifles and snowmobiles for their traditional hunting activities. Like other indigenous peoples around the world, they are using new tools to preserve ancient ways. So this map showcases some of, not all of, the indigenous groups around the world, starting with Canada, North America, going all the way to New Zealand and Oceania. These areas, these groups, can start dying out, but a lot of the people, especially the younger generation of these groups, are trying to preserve their culture. They're trying to find ways to input modern day, things that we need in modern day, to their traditional beliefs. It's crazy to think about. Alright, so next week we'll be discussing extreme weather in the Caribbean and what's going on over there in the Caribbean islands. Today you have a little worksheet to finish that goes along with this. Get your thoughts out onto some paper, and I will see you next time. Goodbye!